Welcome in Flame Central Podcast, powered by Alcova Mortgage. We're down one today.
We're down one.
Next man up.
Next man up.
We just got to step it up.
You put him on the bench,
That's right.
all the way to Mexico.
Emily gallivanting around Mexico.
The adventures of Emily Cudd continue.
Yes. So we'll try to get by.
Where does Matt Warner go? Like, hey, guys, me taking the family to that Max Courthouse.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, we're going to go visit Thomas Jefferson Poplar Forest.
Right.
It'd be an educational day for the kids.
Absolutely.
Right? Emily.
Mexico.
Our
big trip is usually the Sonic in Bedford. That's kind of our big getaway, and she usually leaves the country.
Why? Kids. You want slushy. One slushy.
Yeah, and if you think you're getting bigger than a small, forget about it.
Small tater tots.
That's right. No,
but Emily is basking in the sun.
We live different lives. I think it's fair to say we live very different lives. That's all right. Hey,
you know the saying when they talk about it, they always about the guy with the girl, right? And they say he outkicked his coverage.
Yes.
You know that saying?
Yeah.
I think Emily outkicked his coverage.
I think that. You don't
my boy Jason.
Flip like that.
Yeah, Emily outkicked her coverage.
No, I think you're right on that. All right, hey, we do have a lot to get to today. We're going to be talking basketball. A lot to take away from that game Saturday night in Louisiana Tech, and a huge week coming up for the Flames with a couple of games that they host here this weekend. We'll get into that. Women's basketball, softball. Dot Richardson, good friend of the show. Some breaking news that just came out moments ago that we'll dive into as well.
I don't know this.
Yep, I know. We'll get to it. But we want to start with a little football. There's been a lot of moving and shaking going on involving Liberty football. Now, while all the transfers have not officially been announced yet, that should be coming soon, there have been plenty of reports. Assume that if nothing changes, we're working off of that assumption. I want to get in quickly to the quarterback room for the Liberty Flames.
Do they call Joe Yock the Pete Thamel of Liberty football?
They do. Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Some my favorite nickname for Joe, and he's got a few. Some we can't mention on the air. But my favorite is Mayor of the Mountain.
Yeah.
And that's when your wife.
My wife gave me that.
She says it more in a derogatory tone.
Yeah. She's not real
I
complimentary
don't say it like that. I think in some ways you are that. But Liberty's made some additions to the quarterback room. You knew you had Ryan Berger, right? Jaden Bradford, highly touted kid out of IMG.
Yep.
Ethan Howe, freshman coming in.
Yep.
And they go in and add Ethan Vasco from Coastal Carolina. And now, this past week, announced Michael Merdinger from North Carolina. And you happen to be one of the few people in attendance at the Wasabi Fenway Bowl.
That's a fair statement.
To see him live and in person play against Connecticut. So we'll get into Vasco a little bit, but the Merdinger kid, only game he played, he was a true freshman this year, came in the bowl game. 9 of 12, 86 yards, and 1 interception. So he has 4 years of eligibility remaining. Based off what you've seen, what you've heard, what do the Flames get in this kid?
So I do have some inside scoop on this one. And, so I got to be on the call for that Fenway Bowl game, the Wasabi Bowl.
Yes.
And it's amazing. Like, there's a lot of backstories in the lead of Michael Merdinger playing in that game. So Jacoby Criswell is the starter who played the entire season almost. And the second series of the game, he goes down, right? Well, Max Johnson, the original starter, was out. So long story short, they're down to the Merdinger, who's in the transfer portal. Well, the kid they signed, the 4- or 5-star kid they signed out of high school, came in early enrolling, so he got to practice with the team, right?
Yeah.
So my inside sources were like, hey, we expected Jacoby Criswell to play the whole game. And they practiced, Bryce Baker's his name. They gave basically the second team reps to Bryce Baker.
Really? Okay.
So Merdinger never even took any reps, but Bryce Baker wasn't allowed to play in the game, right? And because he's in the transfer portal. And so, I'm sorry, Bryce Baker wasn't allowed to play in the game because he's a freshman. And so they had to go to Merdinger on the second series of the game. He hadn't taken any reps, right? And so he comes in the game, I'm like, this is going to be bad. First series of the game, he gets flushed out of the pocket. He hits Kobe Paysor down the sidelines. I mean, this thing's a touchdown. This is a 7-yard touchdown. Goes right through Kobe Paysor. He couldn't have thrown a better ball. Right through his hands. And the kid's out there battling. So anyways, he battles, and you're putting him into impossible situation. And so he battles the entire game. Well, anyway, so I get talking to a real close inside, friend of mine at Carolina working with on Mac Brown's staff, and says that Merdinger, you've got a gem here. He said this is the, first of all, he's talented, right? He has the arm ability and the athletic ability to compete. His issue was could he have been a starter at North Carolina if they had the time to develop him? Yes.
Wow.
He could have been the starter there.
Yeah.
And he said, but in this day and age, it's like, okay, what guy do you got to pay $2 million to get out of the transfer portal? Yeah. And so he transfers to, he said, you couldn't have gotten a better player from the aspect of not only athletically is he able to do it, but he is the consummate team guy. He's all about putting the team before himself. And my buddy is in charge of leadership at North Carolina. He said, fantastic leadership skills, all the intangibles in the effort and weight room, everything that you want from what you want your leader to be on the football field. He's like, you guys just got a gem.
That's exciting.
He thinks that Michael Merdinger could be an outstanding football player at Liberty University.
Oh, that's exciting. So that's good to hear. Also, interesting note about him is apparently they think he's the first FBS player that was ever born in Israel.
Oh, yeah.
He was born in Tel Aviv and lived there till he was 8. So just a little, that sounds like a Flame Central story if you ask me. We may have to hit up on that later.
When I was playing at UNC, we had a guy named Andy Dinkin.
Yeah.
He was a 2-time Jewish All-American.
You've told me about that. Yeah, you told me about that.
They have a Jewish All-American team.
Maybe that's
and my buddy Andy Dinkin was a 2-time Jewish All-American. And let's just say we celebrated that.
I can bet you did. You did. You wanted to celebrate your teammates. So you have him, Ethan Vasco from Coastal Carolina this year. 2,100 passing yards, 14 TDs, 8 interceptions, 55% completion rate. Kind of an up and down season for him. He took over the previous year when who was their kid that went down there, everything quarterback.
Grayson McCall.
Grayson McCall went down, and he was a little bit more efficient 2 seasons ago. He has 2 years remaining. Merdinger 4 years remaining. You have Berger back, Bradford in there. You want to talk about competition?
Yeah.
You had that between 2 guys 2 seasons ago, and Salter and JB. You didn't really have a competition this past year. How is that a good thing if you're a coaching staff to have that, or is that almost too many people you've got to try to sort? What's the challenge? What's the benefit of having that many guys competing that you would say really have a legitimate chance to win the job?
I think it's fantastic. I think it's absolutely fantastic. The more competition you have in that room, the more competition you have at any position, the better off you're going to be. The hard part becomes there's only so many reps to go around at the quarterback position. There's one guy on the field playing quarterback. Like when you have receivers, DBs, you can get a lot of looks from a lot of different guys and get a feel. But the coaches have to do a really good job of sorting out early on as you get in. Well, you got all spring ball and then the fall camp, but you got to be able to sort this out pretty quickly. Now, with that being said, the bottom line comes down hey, they have to build a really good offensive line. If it doesn't matter who's at the quarterback, it does matter, but who's at the quarterback position. But if you want to go to that next level and get back in the Conference USA Championship, go back to talking undefeated season, have a great quarterback who pull the trigger, it all comes down to that offensive line.
I'll tell you, spring ball a lot of times when it comes around, and they usually do it earlier than a lot of schools here under Chadwell. It's this past year, I got to tell you, it was kind of an afterthought. You had basketball going on, you had baseball starting up. It's oh yeah, spring ball, whatever. We know Salter, we know Cooley, whatever. This year, this is must-watch stuff. You know what I mean? This year,
there's
so many unknowns on the offensive side, and this quarterback battle now. Same with the running backs, receivers. They brought in a couple, and what you bring back, just trying to figure out who's going to step forward. Spring ball, just in terms of interest, outside of the guys that are in the program. I think it's probably as high as it's been certainly since Chadwell got here, maybe even higher than that.
And the thing too is that when you have this whole new world of recruiting between transfer portal and high school kids, is that I talked to Tony Washington at the ball game, and we started talking about, okay, who are your targets at the receiver? I talked to Willie Corn also, hey, what do we need? Who are your targets at the receiver position? And both of them said that hey, they've got their targets within the transfer portal, and it was real exciting to see some of those targets hit. I talked to Dino Waits also there, and they're like, hey, we really need to find that one other corner. And it's good to see their targets hit. And so you're exactly right. It's like these coaches are good at digging within the portal, and you look at a guy like Colton Korn who's doing player personnel. Like you got to go through a lot of tape to find out like who are the guys that you really want to get, and then go after. Now they went after some big hitters that they didn't necessarily get, but the guys that they did get, they're very excited about. So it's going to be fun to see them, just like you said, with so many unknowns and so many new faces, to see these new faces emerge that are coming. And that's the beauty of the transfer portal, is that you can rebuild your team pretty quickly through that.
It's a blessing and a curse, right?
Yeah. When you lose and then
when you feel like, oh, we've really built this team, this culture that's at a great spot, well, it all changes the next year. But when you have a team where you feel like, oh man, I don't know that we were all pulling the same direction, whatever. Well, good news, it can all change the next year.
Amen.
So we'll see. One other note, you talk about the coaching staff. There was a report from CBS Sports just a couple of days ago that co-defensive coordinator, defensive line coach Skylar McGee had been the target for Wake Forest in their D-line job, but he told Liberty folks that he's going to be staying here. I saw some other folks on the Liberty staff retweet that as well, so we'll take that as a confirmation. But got me to thinking, this will be, assuming no one leaves on this staff before this next season, this will essentially be 3 seasons in a row where the staff has virtually not changed.
Right.
That's almost unheard of.
Yeah.
How important is that continuity, you feel like? And a lot of these guys, even go back further, have coached together since North Greenville. Like they've been together for a decade.
Yeah. I mean, it's a couple things. I think one, it's who do you trust?
Yeah.
Right? As a coach, especially when you're at a North Greenville and you know, like, hey, we're on to something right here. We've got something. We've got the continuity. We've got the unity within a staff in order to have success. Well, what's that going to lead to? That success is going to lead from North Greenville to Coastal or whatever the next job is, right? Well, then you keep that continuity and you have great success, and that success leads to Liberty, right? And so you've got this staff put together, and they're going to themselves thinking like, hey, I enjoy the guys I work with. The school gives me all the resources to be successful, and financially it's a good move for me and my family as a coach, right? Now, so then you get into like, can Liberty, and this is what goes back to Jamie and his press conference, and the ability to keep people happy and know that there is a ceiling here that you can potentially achieve, because I think that's a big deal for coaches. Is to know that, okay, like if I have these people are highly driven, right? So if I have great aspirations to do it at the highest level, so where I'm at right now, can I do so much better than that with my opportunity where it would have caused me to leave, or does my current situation allow me to look at that and go, you know what? We can have a ton of success right here. And I think that factor, along with knowing Jamie, being with Jamie, and trusting Jamie, that one too, also being like, there's an opportunity at Liberty to have a massive amount of success, and the administration is bought into that, right? So that's a big deal with the coaching staff, like to know that your administration is bought into the football team having as much success as possible. I think those two factors are great for continuity in keeping a staff together.
And Chadwell kind of has a reputation of being loyal to his coaches. We've seen that, and we've seen these guys stay together. The other thing I think about is, don't fool yourself into thinking, oh, well, nobody wants these coaches, because we've seen, obviously, you saw this with Skylar McGee. Last year, Newland Isaac's name was floated around at South Carolina. We've seen Willie Korn's name thrown out a bunch last year as well. So, there has been interest, but those guys have also wanted to stay. It's not like, well, I guess we'll stay because we don't really no. These guys are getting interest. You think there's not interest? You think there's not a Bill Durkin's not getting interest 100%. From place? Like, these guys are getting interest, but they, like Jamie's loyal to them, seem to be loyal to him, and like you said, they understand what they have here and what can still be achieved. There's no doubt, and it's important that
coaches in the coaching world, like you get on some staffs, and what happens, I know this from being raised by a coach and coaching myself, is what happens is you get all these, like, when you have a dysfunctional staff, you have like little mini meetings, right? So you got this guy and this guy going, and then what did he? And then it's like a soap opera within the staffs, right? Yeah. And so it's very different. These guys have big egos. I mean, a lot of them. I'm not saying, but a lot of coaches have big egos. Obviously, it'd be anybody who works their way up the chain, and whatever you do, you're going to have somewhat of an ego. And it takes a great deal of, and it's a credit to Jamie. It takes a great deal of work and humility and service to be able to keep continuity, that you look at it and you're like, that flows in that staff. Yeah. And those are the staffs that stick together.
And one last thing on this, I feel like in this era where we talk about the portal and you got to move fast and you got to identify guys and try to lock them, I would think that continuity would be a huge benefit because you know what you're looking for. You're all on the same page of what you're looking for. And you don't have coaches in and out and trying to figure out wait, okay, like what do you want here? Do you like this guy? I do, but do you like? Right. You're all on the same page. You're all understand where each other's coming from, and so when you got to move fast to identify a player in the portal, try to get him here, like you're all locked in and on the same wavelength.
And the thing too is like when you're recruiting kids out of the portal or out of high school, whatever. I mean, how many times have you heard this? Oh, quarterback X. Well, he's on his senior year, and he's had 4 different coordinators. Right? Like nobody, like when your school has a reputation for like, here's a dude coming in and out, and he's played under, here's 3 different offenses, 4 different coordinators, all these different things, then it makes it like you're going to think twice if you're coming out of the portal, coming to high school, to go to a place like, is this dude really going to be here? You know, in a year or two.
Or even the guy that recruited you
the guy
is gone by the time you get there. Exactly. So the guy you've built the relationship with, he's not even there anymore.
That continuity helps out a lot in recruiting.
Yeah. All right, let's change the page here a little bit and go to basketball. Tough one Saturday on the road, Louisiana Tech.
Thought they had it.
Liberty, after winning at Sam Houston on Thursday, good road win, fell to La Tech 79-74. Talon Peter. I just got a text from Joe that just said, Talon Peter is an animal. And he goes for 33 off the bench, most by a Liberty player off the bench since 1986. Jim Pierce, 34 against Ferrum. We all remember
Jimmy Pierce?
Against Ferrum.
Boy, Jimmy.
That was so.
You know what my guess is? Jimmy can still shoot it.
He'll probably still shoot it. This was the most in the D1 era for Liberty. 33 off the bench for Peter. He's been leading Liberty in scoring in conference games, over 16 a ball game. He did everything he could. But Louisiana Tech's really good. They've got the best big man in the conference, Daniel Bacho. Their point guard Newman went nuts in that game. We couldn't stay in front of him. And then on top of that, you had Colin Porter get injured and have to leave for a time, try to come back for a little bit. So a lot of things working against the Flames. I know you watched this whole game. What was your big takeaway seeing them that night?
You know, the thing with Talon Peter is that what you realized early, it's like, you know, some guys you're like, oh, that guy just had a hot night shooting, right? Like that was just that night. Like you could see his confidence build, and it's not just that he's got a really good, like his catch and release is like, dude, there is no doubt in his mind. Like when he's gonna let it go, like you see some guys, they gotta catch it, line it up, and you know they let it go. And if it feels right, it's like this dude was like, he is confident, and he is gonna build on that. There is no doubt when you look at those two teams play, like, and we knew Louisiana Tech, were they number 1 going into the preseason favorite going in? That was a heavyweight fight. I mean, those are 2 of the better teams in the conference, obviously. And so, like, if you go on the road all the way to Louisiana and you scrap and claw and fight, you lose. You know, like I said, Colin Porter was out. I was worried about him. Then when I watched him walk off, I was like, ugh, like that doesn't look good. But then he was able to come back, saw him come back. But and you see Bacho and what was the name? Newman, But then they had another guard.
They did Amari Abram.
Abram, that was nice. Yes, he got going in the second half, hit him big. So, and you looked at that game down the stretches, what they did is, man, they hit some crucial threes when they really needed it. And then obviously the area where Liberty struggled was rebounding, you know, and so they got beat on the boards, but it's tough. So So there's no doubt whatsoever that they can beat that basketball team. And so don't be disheartened, Liberty fans, because you have the opportunity. That's a heavyweight fight. And you hit a few extra shots in that game. You pick up a couple boards. Richie goes back to the drawing board. There's going to be a recipe to beat that team and to play them that tough on the road. You get a couple balls bounce your way. Liberty basketball is. I'm excited to watch this season.
Well, it's always funny. I always like to see what's the reaction after a game, because a lot of times that'll tell you a lot about like what the teams thought of this match. Like, this game ended. Louisiana Tech, they're out on the court like
nuts.
This was like they just won
it was like a tournament game.
Right. And so like, wow, okay, so they realize how big of a game that was and how good Liberty is, or you don't react that way. You don't react that way to a team you expect to beat. You react that way if you feel like this is a marquee game we've got to get. Liberty out-rebounded 44-23. And when you go up against them, you know that's going to be an issue. Liberty 7 of 25 from 3. You feel like you're going to beat them, probably need to get 10 threes, right? That's probably the number, which is about what Liberty averages anyway. You need to get that if you're going to beat them.
And you know the other thing too that I noticed in that game is like, and people will, the average casual basketball look at it and go like, you take a guy like Zach Cleveland,
right?
Okay, and you see like he has a very specific role in who he is, right? And that role, when he gets the ball, he's not turning around. He's not shooting threes. He's not turning around taking 12, 15-foot jump shots, right? He like Richie has clearly defined what his role is. And sometimes they well, come on, Zach, just turn around, take that shot. Well, no. Zach is a total team guy. He'll buy into that role, and you watch as the season progresses, is that he'll become more and more comfortable in that role and what he needs to do, and that is only going to help the team flourish as they move later into the season.
Yeah, tough shooting night too. You're not going to get many nights for Caden Matheny where he goes 1 for 8.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Although I will say it does feel like teams are starting to really dial into him, right? It's like he's the guy we've got to stop, because he's kind of one of those guys, when he gets hot, he can change a game pretty quick.
But if Talon Peter can play that way, Colin can hit a few shots, and what Matheny does so well is he moves so well without the ball. And so like it's all of a sudden you're chasing him around, and he moves great without the ball, and then if you get, especially Talon Peter, to get hot like that. And that takes some of the pressure, and then they got to focus more back on him. And now you have Matheny moving the way that he moves, not only without the ball, but with the ball, how well he moves. You start watching those pieces of the puzzle come together. It could be Liberty basketball is right in the hunt for this whole thing.
Colin Porter looked like a rolled ankle. Like you say, came.
Is that what it was, an ankle?
Yeah, you hope. Sometimes
I thought it was his knee when he went.
It's like your adrenaline's pumping, you're able to go back in, and then the next day or two, you're like, oof. So we'll see. Hopefully he'll be good to go on Thursday against UTEP. Here's the concern, and we touched on it some last week, but we'll go back to it a little bit. So Talon Peter was fantastic, has been all year. But in 4 Conference USA games, bench players not named Talon Peter are shooting a combined 2 of 13 from the field, 1 of 11 from 3. You got to get something out of those guys. And then the other part of it is the minutes that those top 6 are playing. Here's a stat for you. Liberty has 4 of the top 11 players in total minutes in Conference USA games. Matheny 4th, Mothmer 5th, Cleveland 9th, Porter 11th. So 4 of the top 11 in the conference. No other team has more than 1 player in the top 11. So you're asking a whole lot of those guys. The question is, can you live like that for an entire season? I tend to think you've got to bite the bullet at some point. And like your freshman guard, Brett Decker, he's gonna struggle. He's a freshman. But you know what?
Get him the minutes.
Almost got to say we got to get you 8 to 10 every game. Like you've got to find a way to do that, because I just don't know if you can survive.
But here's the thing. Like a guy like Xander Yates, he comes into the game. And he's got to make those shots. He's in there. He's in there. He had 2 good looks for threes, and he's not afraid to pull the trigger. So it's not like, you can tell he's apprehensive. Not at all. Like he gets in there.
Game.
He knows what it is. He knows his game is, and he got in there. And I think he took 2 threes. Is that right? Yeah, he took 2 threes and missed them both. But those are good. You just got to make those shots, because if you can just do that, one of those guys comes to the bench and just do that. One, it's going to increase your minutes, right? So you get those stars will get some more time on the bench. And then 2, it takes so much pressure off your starter. So, you got to get the bench help, and I think Xander Yates is the perfect example of that.
In the end, it feels like it's more about, or less about who's on the court coming off the bench and who's getting the rest, right? That's the more important part. It's who can you buy some rest for? So, yeah, if you get anything out of those guys, a Yates 3, a Brett Decker, like that's a bonus.
Yeah.
You take that as a bonus at this point.
But at this point, I'd say, yes, it's a bonus right now. But when you look at it down the stretch, what your point that you're making is you're saying, hey, guys, if you really want to win the Conference USA Championship, right, some of these bench guys, it can't be just a bonus. It has to be like, dude, you guys need to step up. This isn't like, oh, that was an extra, right? Maybe right now it feels that way. I get your point. But I think through the course of a season, it's got to be like, we have expectation that you need to get it done when you step on the court in order to help relieve some of these guys' minutes if you want to win a Conference USA Championship. I think that right there is the absolute backbone behind winning a Conference USA Championship for this team. And that is, it'll be determined by how well this bench plays. Yeah. Those starters are solid. Yeah. Right? They all know their role, they know what they're doing, and those dudes are solid, right? The contribution from the bench is going to be what makes a difference in this.
And it's not even what they're going to do in a tournament setting. It's, will there be enough gas in the tank for those top six by the time you get to the tournament? So it's right now is when those bench guys have to find a way to contribute. And we'll see if they can continue to develop them. And that may be the biggest storyline the rest of the way. Can you develop some of those guys to give you more the rest of the way? So that'll be interesting. 2 huge games this week. Thursday night, 9 p.m. start. So late night start. It's on CBS Sports Network. Liberty taking on UTEP. UTEP's great. They're one of the top teams in this league. And then Saturday, the surprise of the conference, New Mexico State. They're the only unbeaten in the league right now, 3-0. They were picked 7th in preseason, and they've been great in conference play. And so that game on Saturday, so that's a big one as well.
Do New Mexico State have new coaches here?
He's second year.
It's a second
because they went through. They had the stuff where the kid. One of their players shot a guy, and then their coach got fired after hazing allegations. Jason Hooten is his name. Took him over last year. It was a mess. They've completely turned over the roster. They're playing well right now, so that'll be an interesting one. They also play FIU on Thursday, a game they should win. So we very well could have a 4-0 team in conference play coming in Saturday. So chance to knock them off, so that'll be great. Real quick, couple other things to touch on. Women's basketball, they've won their last 2 ball games against Sam Houston and La Tech. They're 3-1 now in Conference USA play, so great for them. They're playing well. They hit the road now for a couple. And then I wanted to get this to you real fast because I know, Joe, big softball guy.
Yeah, I love Dot.
Softball America just put out their preseason top 25. It came out about 3 hours ago.
Let me take a guess.
Go ahead.
The Flames?
Flames.
They're coming in at 17.
20.
20, okay.
20th. Liberty picked 20th in the country, according to Softball America.
That's awesome.
That's incredible.
Preseason top 25.
Preseason top 25.
Come on.
So
now you got to deliver, Dot.
That's right.
Come on. Let's go.
Also, last week, they had a player, Rachel Roop, who was picked, I believe it may have been Softball
there
America.
it is.
She was picked the 38th best player in the country. So a lot looking good for Liberty right now. They start, their first game is on February 7th. So it's coming up quick. They're down in Florida for, I think, their first 12 games before coming home. So
tell me where the party's at. Roop, there it is.
How have we not done that before? Is that the first time?
It's the first time, I think.
That was good. Yeah. We need to, we'll incorporate that in. We'll have her on the show now. Now we need to get her on so you can do that.
So I can do that whole shit.
So you can just do that whole shit.
I'll beat it.
We'll love that.
Then I'll beat it. Wear it out.
Absolutely.
Okay, Joe, that's enough.
Yeah, you've never done that with anything else.
Please stop.
Yeah, you've never done that with anything else. Real quick before we go, you have an update. Which, by the way, I showed. So I got, some people reached out to me after last week's show. Emily showed your ski trip wipeout. Yeah, they were like, that was hilarious.
They're concerned? They're like, it's just funny.
Yeah. It just makes you. I loved that. That was the best part of the show. Yeah. Oh, Joe, what a disaster. A lot of stuff like that I heard. But we have an update. You had that big wipeout on the slopes.
Yeah, hurt my hip.
You were limping around. He was just dragging himself in here last week. You went like any competitor.
Yeah, what do you do?
Joe got right back on the horse. And he was back out there again this weekend. And what happened?
Okay, so I go back. Reese and I decide that we're going to go back out and ski this weekend. And I take him up to he's pretty good. He's getting good at snowboarding. Yeah. So he's like done his 4th time. But he's like, you know what? let's go off the big dog. So
Right.
we go all the way to cliffhanger. We go up the big ones, right?
Okay.
And we're dominating.
Yeah.
Dominating, right? And so I said, he wanted me to do this little jump. So he said, Dad, I'm going to go down there, and then you come down and film me, right? So he's going out ahead of me.
This is what keeps getting you in trouble is the film.
No, it wasn't
Okay,
filming.
all right.
This wasn't filming. Yes, it does get me in trouble. I'm worried, but it wasn't filming. So I'm just like doing my casual, I'm just shredding it down.
Right.
And then I said, there's a nice little hill right over there. So I go to turn, and the right ski catches again.
It's the same
and
one?
And guess what? I go down, and the first thing I feel when I hit the ice or the snow, first thing I feel is right on that hip.
Right,
I mean,
same
the
one.
same, right, specific, and all you heard was the breath of life come out of me. Ooh. So I'm laying there. So I'm laying there, and some dude skis up. He's like, "You all right, man?" Yeah. And I'm on the ground. I'm going, "The hip. It's the hip." He's like, "Dude, you gonna be okay?" I'm like, whew. Okay, I think I'm gonna be okay, right? And so I get my unbuckle everything, my other ski, and I sound like I'm 78 years old, trying to get up, and I'm like, and the dude's like, he's like, "Dude, I'm staying with you, man. I'm staying with you." Yeah, what a guy, what a guy. So I get up and I'm basically telling him the story about how I hurt my hip the first time.
Oh, that's good.
Right, and I'm sure he's really enthralled to hear
like, why are you out?
Yeah, I'm like, hey man, I was up here a couple of days ago and hit the same hip. It's the same hip. He's like, dude, you okay? Like, I'm trying to ski.
I want to get out of here.
He's like, I just want to make sure you're okay on the ski.
Yeah.
So I got my skis back on. But here's the beauty of the story, Warren. It's like, why did the hip hurt so bad? The hip hurt so bad because it's like football. When you're used to getting hit, right? Your body's like, and your body's like, I'm used to getting hit. Yeah. Well, elderly Joe Yock hasn't been hit in a while. So that first hip shot, elderly Joe Yock went, I don't like this. Yeah. Well, guess what? Elderly Joe Yock took that second hit when he thought, this is bad. I'm done, right? I shook it off like that. And I was, confidence was down.
Right.
I was a little shaky.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, I came back, and Reese and I skied probably we skied 5 hours. And it was fantastic. Only that one fall. So put it this way. The bottom line is, after you get hit a few times, you shake it off.
Right.
Confidence is up. I'm not worried about it. No. Elderly Joe Yock, young Joe Yock is back.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason they call you the Alberto Tomba of Forest, Virginia, because of your skill on the slopes. But no, that's great. Good. We're all happy for you.
Yeah.
If anyone else is out there skiing and they see somebody moaning and groaning about their hip,
it's
probably Joe.
It could be.
Just get him on his feet. He'll be fine. You don't need to stick with him. He'll be fine.
It's very similar. Like I told Dean, I said, I never fall. Right? It's like, here's one more story. One more story. This is the curse of mine. This is years ago. This is before I was married. I was playing with my brother-in-law, Paul. We were playing golf, and we were at Ivy Hill.
Okay.
And so we're going down a big hill there, right? There's lots of big hills out here. We're going down a big hill, one of the holes, and my golf bag was zipped open, the back of it. Yeah. And as we're flying down this hill, Paul looks at me and goes, "You need to slow down." And I said to Paul, Paul, I'm a master kart driver. I never wreck. Right?
Yeah,
and
classic.
So there was a little pipe that went over the thing. When we went over the pipe, my bag in the back was zipped open. So like 3 golf balls popped out of the bag, and they all run. And he's like, "Oh, you lost the golf balls." So I put on the brakes and threw it in reverse. Well, there was a little pond to the left right there. So I hammered that sucker back in reverse, and I'm going full tilt, and I lost control of it.
No, you didn't.
Weeped it. Next thing you know, we're down in the pond.
No way.
We're in the pond. And all you could hear was the reverse, like,
So your bags are underwater.
The bags are underwater. We're in the pond. We're stuck. And there's these 2 guys up on the tee.
Yeah.
Right? These 2 clowns up on the tee.
Right. Yeah, they're the clowns.
No, they're the clowns. The 2 clowns. I'm going to tell you why they're the clowns.
Yeah, they're the clowns.
2 clowns are up on the tee, right? And the guy yells, "You ain't need a tow truck to get that thing out."
Yeah.
Like, whatever, buddy. Why don't you come down here and help me? So I roll up. I take the shoes and socks off, and we're trying to push the cart out of the water there. Yeah. And the guys tee off. They come walking by us, and they just going to keep going. I'm like, dude, help us pull this thing out. Yeah. And I'm like, oh yeah, whatever. So anyways, we got it out, and cart was fine.
I love how you're more upset with the guys that had nothing to do with it. Like it's their problem. Like, why are you not helping me?
If you and I are playing golf together and we see guys stuck in a bad spot, you know what we're going to do? We're going to help pull them out of that bad spot.
Yeah, okay.
Clowns.
Wow. Okay. Well,
total clown show.
All right. Well, Joe, that's I hadn't heard that one. I feel like I've heard most of the good ones. Yeah. That was a new one.
That was a classic.
All right. Well, take it easy on the slopes. Again, that's about it. Hey, do you want to say this? You're in the market for a home right now.
Yeah, come on.
I have no fancy transition.
No,
we don't need it.
We don't need it.
Because I'm just looking into the heart of America right now. I'm telling you, if you're looking for a home,
you do it. Just do the whole thing.
This is the guy you need to be speaking with, Joe Yock.
Do the whole thing.
If you work at Liberty,
you're a client.
If you're an alum, if you go to school here and you happen to have a lot more cash than any normal student should, and you're looking to buy a home, Joe can hook you up. 5% off your closing costs, up to $5,000.
1% up to 5. 1%. It's okay.
This is why I don't do this.
No, you
this
got it. You got it.
Deal.
Keep going. You got it. Yeah.
1% off. 5 sounds a lot better.
Yeah.
1% off your closing costs, up to $5,000.
I'm broke at 5%.
Okay, that's fair enough. 1%. So if you're in the market, just talk to Joe. He's helped countless people around this school,
you can speak
around this area. I'm not only a spokesperson, I am a client. I have worked with Joe Yock myself, even before this podcast existed. Yep. And I can recommend him highly.
Alcova.com.
Alcova.com/Liberty. Now, you may not work with Joe directly. He has a lot of minions that handle most of the heavy lifting. But Joe is the one that's kind of pulling all the strings.
Yeah, you'll get in touch with Joe. You make that first call, you get in touch with Joe.
If you ask, there's a decent chance he'll let you shoot the flamethrower. Yeah. Has anyone taken you up on that?
I got a video of that, too, that I need to put out there.
Okay.
What was one of the most exciting things of the flamethrower? When it snowed.
Oh.
So Reese and I went out and like, hey, let's hit the sidewalk.
Right. Oh.
And so I've got my coat on. I think I'm in my pajama pants still.
Please
and I got my
I would like to see that.
When I'm hitting the sidewalk with the flamethrower.
Did it work?
It worked. It worked, but the first snow was so thick ice. It was taking a lot more.
Okay.
The fluffy stuff that came the second time, it's gone.
See, I feel like that's.
It's gone. We'll get a bit. We're gonna get.
Okay, that feels like the best.
I was like, it was right
like
after.
Every person that's ever had a bunch of snow has always thought to themselves, what if I doused this in gasoline and just lit it on fire? Would that be easier than shoveling?
You know what else I was surprised at? Is how long the snow stayed on fire for.
Oh, really?
Like, it was like you'd shoot it with the flamethrower, and then you're thinking you pull off, and that's it, just melts. It's
all right, go to Joe. Joe's going to post this video.
Yeah, there's still a lot of fire going on after we shot the flamethrower.
Is it at Yock Talk on
Yock Talk.
Yeah, check out, follow Joe. You'll see that video in the near future. But, all right. Hey, Emily will be back next week. We are planning to have a podcast on Monday next week. We assume we'll get back into the country, and she will be here with us. So we'll enjoy that. We'll talk a little hoops, and again next week with her. So
we miss you, Emily. We miss you.
I'm sure
You're
she'll
special.
Come back
People
with some
love
great
you.
Stories.
Yep.
I look forward to hearing what kind of adventure she has had in Mexico. And
there'll be a disaster.
Yeah, she'll be complaining about it. We know that. But we'll tackle all that next week. So thanks so much for tuning in. As always, I do want to mention we haven't gotten a lot of fan mail lately.
Hey, come on, let's get that back.
FlameCentral@liberty.edu. You have any questions about basketball team, football program, life in general, skiing tips, FlameCentral@liberty.edu. One of these days, we're going to print some new mugs. I'm going to put that on Emily's to-do list when
she needs that on her to-do
and we'll get some new mugs to send out to listeners.
It's a Flames. It's in Central Virginia.
That's true.
It's a podcast.
And it's powered by?
Alcova Mortgage. It's a Flame Central podcast powered by Alcova.
All right. We will see you guys next week.
Peace.